In our previous exploration of eugenics and population control, we touched on the profound devaluation of motherhood and the family. But these societal shifts were also driven by an even more fundamental, often hidden agenda. The sexual revolution. This wasn't merely a quest for personal freedom. For many of its architects and proponents, it was a spiritual battle, a deliberate breaking of traditional bonds, and a gateway for radical new forms of human experience, even reaching into the realm of what some believe to be demonic incarnations and a complete reordering of humanity itself. Let us now talk about the seeds of free love and the redefinition of womanhood in the early 20th century saw the flapper girls openly flaunting traditional norms, treating sex more casually and rejecting conventional femininity. At the forefront was Margaret Sanger, who declared, "No woman can call herself free until she can choose consciously whether she will or will not be a mother." This vision was not just about choice. Sanger viewed motherhood itself as slavery, a trap, and called women with large families breeders. Her personal life mirrored this as she engaged in affairs and left her children in caretakers' hands to pursue her cause. Sanger's concept of free love was influenced by utopian figures like John Humphrey Noyes, who believed that exclusive relationships were selfish and possessive. This wasn't just individual preference. Figures like Havelock Ellis, Sanger's friend and lover, pioneered sexology, advocating for sexual inversion, homosexuality, and even controversial views on childhood sexuality, all while being a committed eugenicist. The invention of the birth control pill, significantly funded by wealthy elites like Catharine McCormick and the Rockefeller family, would become a pivotal tool in this sexual liberation, further detaching sex from reproduction and solidifying the devaluation of motherhood. But the sexual revolution had a far deeper, occult underpinning. Figures like Florence Farr, a prominent suffragist and occultist, not only advocated for women's liberation, but for prostitution to be treated as a sacred rite in the spirit of ancient temple practices, believing to unite with a woman is to clasp the universe in your arms and taste the ecstasy of being. She was also known for allegedly summoning a demon of Mercury, Taphtharthareth. This extreme redefinition of sexuality was deeply rooted in practices like sex magic, which witches performed throughout history and regarded as the most powerful form of ritual magic. For many, this was a Luciferian liberation, seeing Satan as a symbol of women's freedom from patriarchal Christianity. The Lemma, the religion founded by infamous occultist Aleister Crowley, actively sought to incarnate Babylon, a scarlet woman or sacred boy, representing the liberated female sexual impulse to usher in a new age of Horus. Crowley's followers, notably rocket engineer Jack Parsons and Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard, engaged in elaborate sex magic rituals, the Babylon working specifically to bring this entity into physical form. Parsons even sought to conceive a child with Marjorie Cameron, believing it would be an antichrist. Cameron herself, after Parsons' death, formed a sex magic cult called the Children, engaging in orgies intended to produce mixed-race moon children through these spells, blurring the lines between spiritual and physical, often fueled by hallucinogenic drugs. The belief in contacting entities from other realms, whether Mahatmas for theosophists like Blavatsky and Alice Bailey, or machine elves for Terence McKenna, underscored a pervasive spiritual dimension to these radical social changes. The logical conclusion of this trajectory was the systematic deconstruction of the traditional family. Simone de Beauvoir, a foundational figure for second-wave feminism, explicitly stated that for women to be truly liberated, the family and the myth of the family and the myth of maternity and the maternal instinct are not destroyed. She argued that women should not have that choice to be stay-at-home mothers, precisely because if there is such a choice, too many women will make that one. This echoed a broader desire to abolish traditional gender roles, with Margaret Fuller, an early feminist, arguing that humanity would eventually merge into oneness, where the delineation between male and female would melt away into insignificance. This radical vision reached its peak with Shulamith Firestone, who in the dialectic of sex advocated for artificial wombs and the communal raising of children, abolishing the nuclear family and parental ownership altogether, seeing childbearing as the original class division. This was not a new idea. As early as 1930, British statesman F.E. Smith predicted ectogenesis, birth in laboratories, would liberate women and allow the state to produce citizens of any desired physical and mental complexion. A century after the push for this liberation, the consequences are stark. Marriage rates have plummeted, and out-of-wedlock births have skyrocketed to 41% by 2010. More than one-third of U.S. children now live without their biological father, leading to significantly higher risks of poor outcomes. Despite the rhetoric of liberation, women's overall subjective happiness has decreased since 1970. The sources argue that this is the ultimate Faustian bargain. While women gained perceived wealth, power, and independence, they became more dependent on alcohol, drugs, and antidepressant medication, trading reliance on their husbands for reliance on government welfare. The intentional deconstruction of family and the devaluation of motherhood, backed by powerful financial and ideological forces, has led to a society struggling with unprecedented social breakdown. It is portrayed as a spiritual battle, where the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, forbidding to marry, found in 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 1. This vision of a liberated humanity, stripped of its traditional bonds and spiritual foundations, truly represents a profound and radical transformation of human existence. Next, we will uncover the orchestrated cultural revolution in Part 8, so stay tuned.